You want to just introduce for the audience what each of your roles were with the film? You're both credited as producers, but I think it'd be good for everyone to know kind of how you were involved, when you got involved.
Um, so I'm actually the owner with Justin of Birthday Suit Films, and we're business partners and producing partners. And this is our third film that we've done together. We did a comedy called Man Up, and I produced a documentary called Twinsters. And then this is our third film. So I helped develop it, and we produced it. And then we brought Alex on board to save my life.
Yeah, I mean, I came aboard like about a year ago, and it was amazing. It was a great experience. In terms of what we did, we pretty much did everything to make the movie happen. Like we had a limited crew, so we had to wear many hats. He also AD'd, I also production managed and did accounting and stuff, so it was a lot of fun.
And this is Ben Munoz, who played Jesus in the film.
So James, before the film, you talked about how for Justin this was a really personal project, and I mean, I remember I lived 10 minutes away from Paramount. I remember the smoke. It's a very personal film for me. I'm curious, like, do any of you have a personal connection with the events in the film?
Well, absolutely. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I grew up in Lakeview, San Francisco, which is a predominantly African-American neighborhood. So a lot of the experiences that you see Eli and Daniel go through in the film are things I went through every day of my childhood myself. And not just myself, but a whole peer group of people. I'm 41, Justin's 36. We kind of, our age group we knew a lot of people from Oakland, San Francisco, Westminster, Torrance, Gardena, like where there's K-Town, where there was Asian kids who grew up in the hood, basically, and our families owned businesses in the hood, and we just tried to get by. So this is, we were kind of this weird kind of mixed generation where our parents were immigrants, we were in the hood, we spoke English, we spoke well, but we weren't like model citizens, we were in the mix, in our elements, and just trying to get by. And so he and I, we both felt like there's this, we represent a whole demographic of Asian Americans that are never represented in films. We're streetwise, we're smart, we're American, yet we're ostracized by our parents' generation and by mainstream society. So, but we made our own niche. Out of us came what is now, Far East movement, Dumbfounded, all the, hip hop, Korean, Asian hip hop and groups that are coming out. They came from that generation, right? We were influenced by all the things around us then. So for us, this is a very personal film. This is almost autobiographical for us in a way. And so, yeah, that's what we want to. We want to rep something that's is not wanted or properly represented by mainstream media.
Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I mean, yeah, for me, I'm a little bit younger than both of them, so I was like a baby once the riots came out. But for me, like my experience with the riots, I mean, it was more what I heard and what I saw, like like the rifles and people on top. But then when Justin sent me the script, it's so much more than those experiences that you see like in the documentaries. Like this is why this story is so important, because it's like the actual. Like some actual like real people and real characters and like their experiences through the riot. So
yeah, I mean, I like to even though that it's marketed and promoted as a film about the LA riots, I don't really feel it's a film about the LA riots. The LA riots is the backdrop. There's a story about the Korean and African American community, the family and the people who lived in the neighborhoods and worked together side by side, didn't know each other, struggled, lived side by side, and yet didn't support each other. There's a whole different story that's in the backdrop of the LA riots. And so the LA riots, what it gave us is it gave us a time, a place, a dynamics, something for us to really tell the story. A lot of things that happened in the store are stories and things that would happen over years of times, right? These are little stories and nuances and interactions with customers that would happen over years. But because we put in the backdrop of the LA riots, we put this time pressure. So we were able to jam-pack this one day with all kinds of stuff that normally would happen in the store over a couple-year period of time. So the LA riots, it's important for the filmmaking aspect to place it in time and place and give it an era. and then give us the backdrop to talk about society, talk about family, talk about social justice, and the element that we did without talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not just the kind of Korean and Black story, but also like, the Latino community is present as well. And Jesus' character, I think, is a kind of a wonderful kind of a outsider of the main conflict, but becomes something like a moral anchor that we can hold on to as well. I don't know if Ben, you want to talk about your memories of 1992 as well as your experience working on the film.
Sure, and thank you all. It was amazing adventure on set and playing Jesus. I grew up during that era. I have a lot of moments that when we're on set thinking about what had transpired during that time. But my character was really, really weird for me at first, you know. And but we improvised, and it's like, you know what? Let's try this. Let's try that. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, you know, with my Run DMC pants on and my pump shoes, you know. So, yeah, it was my era, and it was just great. The team was amazing. I've worked on several sets, and these guys they knocked it out the park. I'm really, really, truthfully honored to be a part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of actors, can we talk about Justin's dad?
Yes.
So you want to tell the audience about Justin's dad, Justin Chan's dad?
Yeah, if you don't know, Mr. Kim, the liquor store owner, is Justin's actual dad. Yeah. So apparently he was like a child actor growing up. Justin calls him the Macaulay Culkin of Korea in the 1960s. But ever since they moved here, he hasn't acted in what, like 40 years? Over 40 years. And Justin had to beg his dad
3 months.
3 months to beg him to do this role. Because his dad wears like a toupee and everything, but Justin was like, no, you're gonna have your real hair, you're not gonna wear a toupee, you're gonna come to set. I think when Justin first told us that his dad was gonna do it, he was like, oh, my dad doesn't want to work past a certain time, blah, blah, blah. We're like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. But
more than half the movie happens at nighttime.
Yeah, so
we have to shoot at night.
Yeah, no, but he was, as you guys know, he was amazing in his part. So yeah, it was great. So
since so much of this was autobiographical for their family, did Justin's dad have input into his memories of what had happened?
Yeah, you know, almost all of Justin's dad's lines were improv. So Justin wrote the scenes, told his dad what the scenes are about, but didn't give him lines. And Justin's dad, basically based on what his experiences were and his interactions with customers, ad-libbed all of it. So he improv'd all his lines. Justin's dad still owns shoe stores. Yeah. And so he had a warehouse full of 1990s stock stuff. And so 90%, that store we found was a former used car lot. And that building was completely run down, gutted, and empty. And so we basically ransacked Justin's dad's warehouse and built that shoe store from scratch. Our art department just killed it. And on a absolutely nothing shoestring budget. And so really and so Justin's dad, even like the first day of shooting, he came in and he like did a double take. And he's like, I'm in a time machine right now. This is, you know, and so, yeah, Justin's dad had a tremendous influence. Our production designer, Rocky, she actually talked to him, went to his other stores, went to the former Paramount Place warehouse with him, talked to him about the look. So Justin's dad had a lot of influence in what the store looked like, and had a direct impact in the development of his own character.
So when we think about American history, like the moments in American history that really show how precarious the position of Asian Americans are between whiteness and blackness, you immediately think of 1992 and riots. I'm curious, what kind of conversations did you have about how you're going to depict the conflict between Korean and black communities? Because I mean, it's so politically, it's awkward to talk about.
Yeah, it was a very, very prominent subject for us to, and something delicately we want to address. And the way we addressed it was by not addressing it. So we were like, let's not talk about the conflict. Let's not even talk about those things. Let's focus on the story. Let's focus on the characters. Let's focus on the relationships between the friends, the families, the customers. Let's show just a slice of life that we remember and how we lived, and just show it as is and be as authentic as possible, and let all the other elements that are around that time and around that era kind of fall into its place. You know what I mean? Like, without having to beat over the head on the drum, this film talks about Asian and Black conflict. It talks about Korean and Black people living in South Central, in K-Town, in Paramount, in all these neighborhoods together, without us being like, it's 1992 Paramount. There's Koreans on this corner. There's Blacks on this corner. You know, it's like, we don't have to do it that way, right? Like, so for us, we addressed it by making sure we didn't directly address it and focused on what we thought was more important, and that's the relationships and the people and the actual families in the communities.
So how did the Camila character come about?
So Camila character was initially a boy. And during the development process and the kind of the brainstorming process, we Justin was like, you know, it's just so much more powerful if we turn it into a girl. Like, especially for him, he's like, I've been in this industry for a long time, and the two least represented actors in film is Asian males and African American young women, right? So he's like, well, let's make an Asian male and a young African girl the leads of the film. And if you notice, there's no white people in the film. There's literally 3 white people in the film, and it's the 2 nurses and the doctor at the end of the movie. And most people don't even realize that there's no white people in the film, but this film is about the ghetto, and there's just not white people in the ghetto. So, you know, that's just the reality of it, and so that's just how it plays out, right? And so the Camila character became this amazing antithesis where it takes on what we know about the neighborhood, but lets us present what we knew, what we grew up in a childlike manner, right? It do child innocence, right? Because everything else is so hard and so real, but Camila gets to wear a flower in her hair. She gets to give this other element of beauty and softness out of this harsh world, right? So that's the Camila character. And actually, Simone Baker, the actress, this film is such a grassroots, community-based film. So it was backed by the community. It was partially funded by Kickstarter. When we auditioned for Camila, Justin auditioned through agents. All these girls that were in Nickelodeon and Disney channels and stuff like that. And I'm sure you can imagine, they would come in and be like, yeah, fuck that, you know, and it would just be like, really, really cutesy Disney girls trying to act all hard, and we're like, no, this isn't working. So we actually did open auditions at churches and community centers in the African American neighborhoods, and we found Fernando Pullum Community Arts Center that a friend referred us to. He opened the doors to the center to us, introduced us to Simone, and we knew immediately. We knew that she was going to be the one. And so we casted her, and if you will all someday get to meet her because she's gonna blow up and become famous. When you meet her in person, pink is her favorite color. She wears dresses. She likes to, you know, like she's a girly girl. But then but she's an amazing talent, and she gets into character and she just transforms into this other person. So, yeah, there's a lot to Camila.
And the other way you kind of lighten up the film, I mean, this could have been a very, like you said, kind of a very hard film, but it's full of comedy. And in many ways, it is a comedy. Can you talk about like wanting to keep it light, at least in between moments of where it gets really horrid?
Well, I'm going to let Alex and Ben get on this, but I'll just say one thing about that. If anyone here has grown up in the hood, like no matter how poor, no matter how hard it gets, yo, we have fun. And we have a fun time, right? Like, it's how we do, man. Like, and like when things are bad, like what can you do except just like make fun of, like, you know, that's why we clown each other on the playgrounds. And like when we're, you know, like it's part of how we lighten the mood is that we cap on each other, right? So that's what we want to reflect. But you know, they have different takes, for sure.
I mean, like when we first started pitching and kind of talking about it, we always said, oh, it's a dramedy, blah, 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 because with Justin's background in acting, he's mainly a comedic actor. If you guys know David So, he has a comedic channel. So, you know, they're comedy actors, so it makes sense for it to be a comedy, dramedy kind of film. But then as we, you know, after we made the film, after we saw it, we were like, this is a drama with a lot of comedic elements. And me personally, I think the comedic elements are what makes the film, you know, that much better, is because, you know, you feel for the characters, like you understand what they're going through, and what James says. I mean, they're making the best out of the situation that they're living in. And then Ben's character, of course, was the best comedic element. If you want to talk about, you know, your jokes.
Oh man! So I'm seated on one of the chairs out there, and they're kind of going around with the camera and talking, and there's like an idea. You could just see their eyes look. It was like, let's pick on the Mexican, right? It was funny. And so I'm sitting there having a cigarette and said, you know what, let's try this. And so they have me doing all these hoops and hurdles and stuff. I'm like, what the heck is it? And they're all in the van looking with the camera, looking at me, and just, there was a lot of stuff going on there. But you know what, it was very different, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, when we got done, everybody's high-fiving every time we shot something, and yeah, it was a great time. Camila, when she walks by, Simone, she walks by and says, hey, Jesus, you know, and I was like, it was great. It was really great, and you're going to see a lot more of her. Like James said, this girl is going to be a knockout.
Any questions from the audience?
Why should it shoot in black and white?
For a few reasons. There's a French film called Le Haine, which is about someone who gets killed and there's a riots that happen, and that's shot in black and white. And that was actually a huge artistic and script influence. So this film, even though it's an American urban film, we shot it with a lot of French New Wave European cinema style. And we purposely did that. We purposely created this juxtaposition of kind of like the score is very symphonic and the look is very artistic in black and white. The other reason with the black and white is that because it's a 1992 period piece, it is 25 years ago, and we're a small indie film. We don't have huge budgets to do these huge riot scenes and stuff, right? And so by making it black and white, it automatically gives it an artistic quality, but it also gives it a dated quality. So I feel that being black and white, you believe that it's 1992, and you don't question it anymore because the black and white quality gives it takes you to the past. And those are the two main reasons.
Yeah, I suppose it'll never get released because of the title, like in the actual.
No.
We closed our deal with our distributor last week with Samuel Goldwyn. So no, it will be released. It will be released in mid-August. We're working on the exact date, but right now it looks like around August 18th area. But I mean that's a good point. That was something that we thought about too, with the title of the film. We're like, you know what, this may be a drawback in getting our film sold, but none of the distributors that we had like communications with and with Samuel Goldwyn, it wasn't a big thing with them. We were like, do we have to change the title? They're like, no, why would you change the title? And that's why the title is so important, is because it starts off having that dialogue and having that kind of controversy when you first hear the name of the movie. So no, it's yeah.
And also, it's a limited theatrical release. They're figuring out which markets that they're going to initially release to. But please, when the dates do come out, please share. Because even though it's quite an accomplishment to get a distribution deal with with an Asian American independent film, the journey's not done, right? If we flop in the box office now that we got this deal, then the next film won't get a deal, right? We have to exceed. We have to exceed all expectations, and the community, we need all you guys' help to come out and show and force that this type of film, that this type of content, and this type of filmmaking and filmmakers are worth backing, are worth distributing, are worth promoting, because there's an audience, and for them it's all about bottom line. They need to make money, right? So only way is that for us to continue this type of content and to continue films like this being made in the future is having you guys help us spread the word and making sure we do extremely well in our little capacity with our limited theaters. But we have to show the distributors, we have to show the market, we have to show Hollywood that there's a voice for this type of content, that there's an audience for this type of content, and there's not for entertainment reasons, but for life reasons, for artistic reasons, for reasons that this makes the world a better place.
This might be a weird question, but my question's about the vehicles. They felt like characters to me. The crappy old but fast little rice rocket and the sleek Cadillac, and what was the idea, setting all those vehicles up?
The question was about all the vehicles in the film and how they become characters of their own.
For people who grew up Asian American in my generation, people who watched Initial D, that car is an actual '86 Corolla drift car. Okay? So for people who know anything about car culture, the '86 Corolla is an iconic drift car from that era. Everyone who was in the '90s who wanted a drift car wanted either a '86 Miata or a Corolla. Or a '92 Miatas were hot for drifting. '86 Corollas were hot for drifting. So that was part of it. Ben actually helped us get some of the beautiful old timer cars, and and just everything in all. It was just finding friends and families to pitch in their old cars, because you think, oh, we can find a '91 Camry anywhere, and it's 27 years ago, and they're all gone. It was really hard to find cars. Yeah. So.
Anything else from the '90s that, like, just the challenge of doing a period piece set in 1992?
I mean, that was what James said. That's why we kept it in black and white, to not distract the audience, to be like, oh, that car is not from 1992. What the? It was just like to make it more, have them focus on the film. And I guess our art department did a great job. A lot of our sets were enclosed, so we were able to have a lot of control on what the audience saw and stuff. So. I mean, for me, the cars were the hardest part about keeping it, as period as possible. But I thought, our art department did an amazing job. So
tell them the story about, the car that Keith and his friends are in.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Okay, so the car that Keith and his friends are in, that they cruise up in the end of the film to confront them at the store. We were supposed to shoot that whole thing out in one night, but halfway through the night, the car literally broke down. Like broke down. We thought, okay, maybe we can pick it up tomorrow. No, we take it to the shop. They're like, oh, we need like 5 days with this thing. So we had to reschedule the whole shoot. The guy who we borrowed the car, who rented a car from, he's like, I don't got money to fix a car. So we're like, damn. So we had to have a production meeting and be like, all right, we had to scrounge up like some money to get the car fixed, because we already shot half the scene. We couldn't replace the car. So we had no choice. But the dude was totally down. He got his car fixed out of it, but he let us borrow it for free. So anyway, things like that happens with cars.
I want to ask about the brother in the film, Justin's brother in the film.
David, yeah.
Is that really his voice, and is he doing anything with that?
That is really his voice. He is an amazing singer. I mean, when I first talked to him, he told me that, he's a very well-known YouTube comedian and YouTube star, but he told me his first dream was being a singer. So that is his real voice. I don't know if he's gonna do it. I mean, if he wants to, I'm sure he can, have an album put together too. But yes, we're planning on having a soundtrack with all of our stuff, and with his is because he's awesome.
Well, I guess we'll have to have a dog version.
Yeah, I mean, that's the version that we have. So obviously, it sounds weird without the dogs.
Okay. Even though it added to the gritty realism of the film, do you ever have any concern about the number of F-bombs that were dropped?
I mean, even for me, I was like, oh my God, there's so many F-bombs. How am I going to show this to my parents? And then, at the end of the day, like, yeah, there are a lot of F-bombs, but I mean, that's just how people talked back then. Like, it's not like in the script, we're like, all right, we're going to, like, there's 200, 300, 400, I don't even know what the count is, but like, we didn't tell Justin, hey, take this number of F-bombs out. It just came natural to how they talked and how it was during, his like relationships and stuff, especially with his brother, especially with the, other characters. And for me, when we were shooting, I didn't realize how many F-bombs we had until afterwards. And then we were like, you know what? Let's just keep it. It's fine. We'll do like the South Park counter of F-bombs, and then So.
And also the nature of this style of shooting. We had a full script, but all the actors, they were not limited to the script. They knew the scenes, they knew certain marks that they had to hit, they knew certain cues we had to hit, but if they felt like in the moment that the dialogue was going to go a different way and they just needed to F-bomb out, I mean, we went with it, right? Like, Justin wasn't going to stop them from feeling their character out. And, like I said, I grew up in Lakeview, and, dog, like, that's how we talk all day, every day. I'm double censoring myself right now so that I don't have F-bomb slip out right now. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, I actually had a question about one of the final scenes after Camila, she's in the hospital and they put her in a stretcher, they take her away, and her brother begins to hit himself like constantly in the face. I found that like pretty significant, and I just want to know why that specific action was there. Mainly because most of the time, like in crisis, people kind of pull their hair or they hit a wall. But, like, why was he hitting himself like so hard?
So there's a couple things. It's actually a homage to Korean cinema. And K-rage, what we call K-rage, right? Koreans within the Korean culture are infamous for having that level of infighting with family and friends, and then having this kind of residual loathing, self-hatred, anger that kind of happens. And you'll see in Korean cinema like the disappointed mom slapping herself, the disappointed son, hitting himself. So it's a homage to Korean cinema, but it's also a way for us metaphorically to show the misdirected anger that happens when you grow up in the inner city all the time. It's not quite self-hate, but it's this type of rage when you grow up so hard that you don't know how to, and you're constantly displacing your anger on others. And when you have this kind of a moment and you don't know where else to displace it and you just left displacing it against yourself, that's just really what that scene was. And Justin described the scene to Keith, to Curtis, the actor. And Curtis is based in New York and he's an amazing method actor. And we weren't sure how far he was going to go with it. We just kind of told him the concept. And what you saw there, that final scene, the hospital scene, if you ever get a chance to watch the movie again, from the time that they land and the car lands at the hospital to the time that they are both sitting in the hallway facing each other, the camera never cuts. It's a oneer. And we did 2 takes of that oneer, and we decided to just live with those 2 because they were so good. So that was just him in the moment, just going there.
Hi, thank you for being here. It was a really incredible film. I wanted to ask what your thought was behind choosing Camila to be the one to die at the end, because when I saw it, I personally interpreted it as sort of normalizing this imagery of violence against Black bodies and the normalization of Black death in a lot of mainstream movies, like even Hollywood movies. So I was just curious on the choice.
Oh, that's interesting that you brought it up to me that way. For us, the choice of Camila dying was the opposite, actually. We felt like she's the most innocent one. She's the one that you don't expect to die. But for us, it was representation of like, you have all these adults with displaced anger that live side by side and should be neighbors but are enemies. And she's the bridge in between everyone. And within this misguided conflict and misguided rage, the most innocent one is the one that dies. Is the one that, because of this displaced anger, because of this disenfranchisement of the adults around her, the one that cares the most is the one that ends up dying when she tries to do something about it. And so it shows that the most precious thing gets lost when you are misguided and angry and lost in the way you're trying to handle conflict. So that was kind of our representation, that in those types of situations, it's always the most innocent, the most beautiful that are hurt the most.
So why not put like a positive spin on it other than end and have her actually like survive and then have to call like
No, I mean, it's a great question. It's a question that comes up every Q&A. And so I will tell you, we shot 2 versions of the ending. And there is a version where she lives. And that was the version that was first edited for a few weeks. And that was the version that Justin was going to go with. And I was adamantly against it. It just didn't, but it's an artistic choice, right? It's an artistic difference. But over time, as the story and the editing really developed and the characters and the relationship really developed, we realized that it was too, it was a happier ending where she lived, but it wasn't like roses and sunset kind of ending. But it still felt like it took away from the real message that within this type of conflict, if we're not smarter, if we're not better, if we're not more compassionate, if we're not more apathetic to each other, then innocence and beauty is going to get lost. That the most important elements of your community and your families are going to get destroyed if you don't love and if you don't care and if you don't think about the right things, right? So yeah, that's kind of just if you know if you have anything.
No, I mean, yeah, James said it like, you know, the movie is you know, for me, the movie is a slow burn, and then kind of hits you at the end, and then the audience is left going like, what the. What the F just happened? And I mean, I'm with James too. We saw all the different versions with her living and stuff. And while the ending, you know, is a lot more, oh yeah, she's alive and stuff. But you know, we feel like this was a better representation of what the whole message and theme of the movie was. And you know, we want the audience not only to watch it and to feel the impact of it, but afterwards to be like, oh, okay, how could this been avoided? You know, not like in life we don't have, you know, the ability to have everything just go back to normal and stuff. So that, I mean, that's why we went with how the movie ended, and you know, for us, we just feel like it hit the audience, you know, a little bit stronger, and it made the movie a little more memorable for us. So yeah.
Yo, and Korean filmmakers are hardcore, man. We just kill them.
Yeah, we don't give a.
So the question is, why does Jesus help Justin's character so much? And what's going on with her?
It's really not so strange, but I had grown up with the family, and kind of pushed myself onto Justin and David in the business, and I hang out a lot and kind of just overseeing the boys, you know, and it was a great how could I say it? It was a great touch to offset some of the intense scenes, so that's where my character came in.
So I noticed there was a distinct lack of mothers in the film. I was wondering if that was an intentional choice when constructing the script and the story, or
it was unintentionally intentional. And what I mean by that is that if you see, there's not only a lack of mothers, but there's a lack of fathers. There's a lack of parents in general in the film, right? So what we did is that this is kind of a weird version of Orphan Annie also, right? Like where Eli and Daniel are orphans, Simone's an orphan, Keith and Regina are all orphans. None of them have parents. And Jesus and Mr. Kim somehow become like surrogate parent roles in a weird way, right? So it wasn't that we intentionally was like, let's eliminate all mothers from the script. It was more like, let's focus on the fact that they don't have any parents. And so it was an intentional thing where the mothers were left out.
So I noticed when Regina went to pick up her little sister, there was like an awkward moment between her and Eli. Was there like a past relationship there?
That's for you to keep wondering. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you brought it up because when we were doing that scene, I actually specifically remember the directing notes that Justin gave Omano, who plays Regina, and he's like, you know, with all our awkward pauses, make it feel like we used to date. And so, because the real intention of that is to be like, could they have dated? Maybe, but really is to show that they used to be close in some capacity in the past. That these families used to work together at the store. That Justin's father and Regina's mother worked together, and that they both were killed, and in the same doorway that they're having this conversation in, right? So there's definitely layers to that, but with everything in this film, we're trying to make it subtle and make it implied and give the room for the intelligence of the audience to fill in those gaps, right?
Yeah, okay, so the music video part of the movie, it seems like you guys were just having fun.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are fun, or you guys want to just bring it back to the beat?
It was both. It was. I mean, Ben can attest. We had fun on this set every day, as hard and crazy of a shoot as it was. It was friends and families every day having a good time. Simone is a joy to be around. And so that music scene, the music video scene was written in the script, but they definitely, and we had a choreographer come in and do some of the bigger basic stuff. But half of it was choreographed, the other half was them just playing the music and just freestyle, right? And half of it is what got edited in, was them freestyling.
And like the music video scene is, you know, for me is really important because, you know, it shows why Camila goes to the store every day. You know, like that day in particular is very intense. There's a lot of stuff going on, but she goes because it's fun. She has a good time with the brothers. They dance. They joke around, and you know, they make her feel like part of the family. So like that was the importance of that scene.
Is Camila a character, a symbol, or both?
Is that a symbol?
Both. I mean, I'm not trying to take a cheap way out, but Camila is such an important character in the story, right? Like this film, like she makes this film, right? Like you fall in love with her, and the moment she pulls out the gun, you hear everyone in the room go, oh, right? Because they're like, oh no, little girl, don't shoot people, and then it's like trip, bang, and then everyone is like, oh shit, why her? Of everyone, why is it her, right? And so, she's so central and so important, and she really does steal the show. So the answer is both. Character-wise, she's so dynamic and beautiful, and it's important to show, because she's 11 and because she's young, that youthfulness lets us have some innocence and playfulness and goodness in this hard world. But then that transcends where she becomes a metaphor, right? As she dies, she becomes a metaphor for innocence lost. And really becomes the emphasis of the wrong, misguided and misdirected anger between Keith and Eli, right? So she has to be both. Her role in the film is too complex for it not to be both.
So the question is, why did Eli decide to burn down the store?
Yeah, so that's another homage to Korean culture. You know, like I've had very angry and sad and hard moments in my life and around a lot of other Korean families, and you know, we're infamous for the very intense, dramatic mourning and aggression, and so you know, it's like the Phoenix Rising, right? Like it's burnt. You know, this store represents everything that was wrong about what we were trying to do, our struggle, our pain, and all it did was lead to Camila dying. So it's a metaphor, but it's also cathartic for him to burn down the store, and then the spirit of Camila is there at the end, and so it becomes a Phoenix Rising type of metaphor at that point, right?
Like in the beginning, I recalled like there was someone sleeping with the glasses, and it wasn't Keith because Keith was outside. I was wondering who that was then.
So who was sleeping in the classes in the beginning?
It's one of his friends. They partied all night long.
Oh yeah, that was his friend.
Yeah, no, that was just one of. It's actually one of his friends that's in the car with him at the end of the film.
Symbol and a character.
I was just wondering, being that it is a independent film made by Asians, how difficult was it finding actors that played the Mexican and the black kind of gangster thugs? Just considering that there is still, you know, some racial conflict and tension, like I would think they would want to represent, you know, like some people might be.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely that question has some relevancy. You know, I did have a couple of people say that they were going to pass on the script because they didn't want to play that role anymore. But at the same time, I mean, Ben can attest to it. Like I said, this film was done so much through the community. Like we tried to initially start through the traditional routes with casting agents and agents, and we just weren't getting the type of actors we wanted for this type of gritty, kind of raw film. And so Justin reached out to friends and people he knew that, and that's how we met Ben, but that were in organizations that work with former gang members and do outreach programs for inner cities. And so through that community, we actually found people who were aspiring actors, or just thought that it would be cool to act, and we literally got people to be themselves in the film. I'll let Ben follow up.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, and some of the guys, the Latinos, gang members that were there, they have portrayed those roles in the past on set, and I know quite a few of them. But, you know, it was such an inspiring story that even offset, as we discussed things on the side, everybody was just so pleased to take a part in something historic but different. It's just really different because Camille, again, she's just so amazing at what she does, her character, and to integrate with the Korean family as Latinos. You're right, you know, there is some animosity, but when it comes to seeing a project, I think a lot of the people decide to come together and see the bigger, you know, the bigger page. And yeah, it's amazing.
And I like to say, like, in the end, like, we didn't make this film a gangster movie. We didn't make it like a hood movie where people get shot and killed and robbed. You know, like, even though those things happen, we really felt like we made this an artistic film about people and families and relationships. And so, like Ben was saying, the other people, you know, Hispanic and Black actors who are on there, they're like, you know, even though I'm portraying a somewhat stereotypical role, within the greater context of film, it's not stereotypical. So they didn't feel cheapened by what we were doing. And I was grateful for that, because we really were trying to be conscientious and as authentic and as well-rounded as possible.
Yeah, right there. What were some of your influences for becoming directors and actors, like what, Latino or any other genres? Growing up, like, at what point did you say, you know, I wanted to do this, I want to be acting and directing, and what influenced you?
I mean, for me, one way or another, my whole life, I knew I was going to do art, and it just evolved. I you know, loved writing and music and photography, and it just kind of evolved into becoming filmmaking. And yeah, for me, I've just been blessed to regardless of how hard things were in my life, I had an avenue to do art. And so it really basically saved my life, because I was a shoot 'em up, stick 'em up kid in the hood. So yeah, man.
And then me for producing, I mean, I just, you know, when I was a kid, I just like to tell stories. And for me, this is just a great example of a story that needs to be told. And yeah, I mean, hopefully, you know, we work on more projects like this, and, you know, it gives you guys inspiration to tell your own stories as well. So yeah.
And as for myself, excuse me, I come out of San Bernardino, and I was just fortunate to have done what I have been able to accomplish since 2013. And then this accomplishment here with the cast and crew is just amazing. I would have never thought I would ever be in entertainment as far as an actor. But yeah, I've done quite a bit in a short period of time. And my inspiration is to inspire the youth in my area and all around, basically. So it's been a great journey.
What was the greatest moment that y'all had working on this project?
The greatest moment. Oh, for me, it was, I think, James, it may be the same, but for me, it was finding Simone, who played Camila, when we went to the Community Arts Center. The Fernando Pullum Arts Center, he took us aside and was like, I have to show you one of our students. And then we went to a room, Simone came out, and then she sang us a song, and we were like, this is our main lead actor. So that was the best part for me doing it, and then, you know, seeing her performance and, you know, her future is just great. So.
For me personally, the best moment was when the film finished screening the first time at Sundance, and we got a standing ovation. And I had to choke back tears because, you know, we literally finished principal photography of this film September 1st of 2016. So about 7 months ago, we finished shooting this film. And it's been editing, festivals, distribution. It's just been nonstop. And so it was literally at that moment when the lights came on at Sundance where, like, everything really hit me of what we've been able to accomplish. And it was a personal moment of a lot of pride and joy.
And Ben?
Finish this off, Ben.
A memorable moment. I gotta say, the filming part of me acting a little crazy and dancing too. What was the name of the song again? Man Eater. And I'm outside, and that was just a little snippet, but it went on. And these guys, I think they were just yanking my chain because let me tell you, they were back and forth with the camera, and they're like, you know, in their native tongue.
Like 2 hours shooting that?
And it was, but the funny part is they're sitting in there laughing, and I'm thinking, oh man, good thing I have these headphones on. I'm closing my eyes and I'm dancing around like a, you know. And that was a really great, memorable moment. And then afterwards, it was shot. It was like, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I said, you guys just made a clown out of me.
All right, I'll tell you one last memorable story. The night that we shot the scene where Camila actually gets shot, in middle of the scene, we got bum rushed by 5 Paramount police because they got so many calls from neighbors because they thought someone actually was shot on our lot. So that's how good her acting is. And let's go get beer. Come on, dude.
Thank you, James, Alex, Ben. Let's go get some beer. Thank you all for your amazing questions and for being here the last 8 days to celebrate our spring showcase.